I call them ancestors of the Indaba. They're also known as friends of the Indaba. Prof. Rosman, how are you?
Good. It's good to be here with you again.
Definitely. It's good to always have one of the trustees of the Indaba. I call you guys the original Avengers, and yeah, Prof. Last time we spoke, I think was at the Indaba X last year at Wits. It was a bit cold, I remember. This year we had the Indaba X at Stellenbosch. It was also cold. And yeah, I'm hearing rumors that the Indaba X next year might be happening in PE. I don't know.
We'll find out.
Yeah, we'll find out definitely. Prof, let's start from the beginning. You are director of the Mind Institute, right, at Wits
Yes.
University. You're coming up on 1 year. Walk us through how has been the first 12 months being, the Mind Institute, and walk us through that. And what are you currently busy with?
Cool. Yeah. I mean, it's great to be able to talk about this now, and it's kind of crazy that it's coming up on a year.
Yeah. Because last time we spoke, it was just unveiled, it just opened. Yeah,
Yeah, we're just in the process of setting everything
Yeah.
up, and yeah, so that was set up really with the intention of building kind of a powerhouse, a center to be thinking about fundamental questions in AI, and also natural intelligence. And so, yeah, that's been happening. We've got 35 academics involved in the institutes at Wits now, from a wide range of disciplines. About a third of people involved are AI people, but we've got everyone ranging from behavioral psychology to neuroanatomy to philosophy and policy and evolutionary science and all sorts of different things. So we've got this really nice melting pot of academics. And we've been doing regular meetings. We do deep dives into different topics, ranging from things like AI safety to consciousness, anything that might be kind of cross-cutting to this group of academics, which we're planning on growing out over the next few years and actually expanding beyond Wits as well. And then we've been trying to encourage all sorts of different interdisciplinary projects, new ideas, really getting people to think outside the box with the idea that we should be kind of pushing for crazy innovations in science and research and different ways of thinking coming out of Africa, which, as we can see from just looking around the Indaba here, there's so many amazing people and amazing ideas. But what happens when you can build a space that can kind of catalyze this radical interdisciplinarity? That's the kind of project that we're running at the moment. So that's going really well. That's exciting. It's still early days. We're getting a lot of people jumping on board. We've got a lot of new projects going. We're busy setting up different ways of engaging with different parts of the community. And it's really exciting. It's something that somehow I didn't expect would be able to happen at this stage, at least.
Prof, having the structure of a lab or a institute that is not directly attached to a specific department or faculty, that business model, why is it structured? Why do universities structure that? Is it for more freedom of research? Is it for fundraising? Is it to attract specific talent or specific aspects? Can you just walk us through that?
Sure. So I think an important kind of underlying principle is critical mass, and that's really what we care about in any of these structures, right? So, one person can do amazing things, but when you put a whole lot of people together, that just amplifies what's possible in terms of support, in terms of confidence, in terms of just having the resources to tackle bigger questions. So you always want to be, I think, building bigger structures, right? You've got to be careful not to let them get isolated, but if that's a driving principle, the question is then who sits in the space, who are the right people? So, for a research lab, you might say, well, maybe there's an academic or a few academics and the research students. For an institute, it depends. Like if you're, really focused on one single discipline, maybe it makes sense to be in one place. But the question for us was, how do we kind of meaningfully interact with people from this wide range of disciplines in a way that doesn't make it feel like they're a token contribution.
Okay.
Right. So that, if we want to do a project between AI and something in the creative arts, right? the positioning of this is important. Is this something that's like 90% one and 10% the other, or are we really trying to meaningfully bring these two together? And so that's, to me, is what's important about trying to almost transcend the barriers between disciplines to some extent.
Prof, apart from, the research element, I want to just touch on the curriculum element. We don't have, and you correct me if I'm wrong, AI as a specific discipline. For example, okay, let me rephrase it like this. In Europe-based university, you have specific degrees that are zoned in on specific aspects of AI, right? Within the School of Business, within the Faculty of Law, so forth and so on, even in the social sciences now. But we're not seeing that robustness in terms of including AI in different faculties or just having a program directly focused on AI. Where do you think, what can we do better, and just from a curriculum point, in creating that curriculum to attract? Is it something that you're thinking about? Is there something that you're influencing, maybe with your other colleagues in other institutions or at VIS?
So this is something I can particularly comment on at Wits more than in other places, obviously. If we look like within our computer science or school of computer science and applied maths, which is my kind of home school, there we've got a lot. So we've got kind of master's programs
Okay.
in data science and in AI and in robotics and a whole lot of these with, I don't know, now at this stage, probably 20, 30 courses that like students can choose as electives. They get really deep into different topics, whether it's NLP or reinforcement
Beautiful.
learning or data visualization or
Beautiful.
computer vision, like all these kinds of things. And I think that's super exciting for students now. So that's become kind of a rich space. And I think a lot of computer science departments are starting to build that kind of model as well. But when you want to talk broader, I mean, the interesting thing about this kind of time that we're in now, where AI is everywhere, is that it really touches on every discipline, right? So whether you're talking to people in the world of advertising or education or any discipline, like people are saying, wow, what do we do now that there's all
AI.
these new AI tools
Yeah.
here that are changing the way we think about things. And what's nice is that kind of opens some doors to new conversations. So we've been thinking about this a lot from the Wits perspective, for example, where we've been setting up over the last couple of years programs like a kind of a postgraduate diploma in data science, where
Lovely.
students can come in from different backgrounds. They can
100%.
take some more traditional AI computer science type courses, but there's also electives from different disciplines.
100%.
This is a great start, but we need to do more with this. And I think it comes down again to getting the individual academics who from different disciplines who are open to having these discussions and kind of putting them into a room together and saying, what can we do that's meaningful? And I think because there's so many interesting new projects, new topics, and even students that are keen on these intersections, I think that's possible. So take, for example, like the health sciences. We've got a lot going on in that space at Wits. But I'm always talking to students that maybe their background was in, I don't know, occupational therapy or medicine or something. And they'll come and say they're interested in AI, which people have always done. But now when I have these discussions with them, they'll actually pull out a laptop and show me something they've built because
100%.
they're able to vibe code using, whatever their favorite tool is and actually start prototyping things. And this is exciting because it means that the kind of intellectual or technical barriers to starting to even have these conversations are wearing down. Now, you need the collaboration there, right? You
Definitely.
can't just say like
Definitely.
someone from a different discipline isn't going to necessarily be able to do like the absolute state of the art solution to a problem. But by the
Definitely.
same token, the technical person in say computer science might not even know what the problem is. And this is where they've got to come together. They've got to be able to talk the same language, which again, AI helps facilitate. If someone's using technical terminology that I don't understand, I can get my trusty large language model to tell me what that means. And I think this is getting easier, but it really is about trying to bring people together, reduce the barriers, and give them kind of a safe space to think outside the box.
Prof, you've been speaking a lot this year in a bunch of workshops. And, there's critical things that I want to poke your interest on that you mentioned and talked about. But before I go there, let's start with your discussions. What are the three key insights that attendees should have extracted from what you were talking about?
What's been interesting to me is seeing the kind of maturing of the community, but also in a lot of different directions, different disciplines,
Yes.
different interest areas. Like it's a rich and like blossoming field, right? And from some of the discussions we were having earlier, there was a lot of questions about how the kind of local, the African community can engage more meaningfully with the community in the rest of the world.
Mhm.
Or put another way, how can the rest of the world contribute to what we're building here?
100%.
But thinking about this bi-directionally so that it's not
Okay.
just them feeding into us, but there's a lot that we can teach the world.
100%.
And a lot of this comes down to like the culture that we've established in events like the Indaba, the way that people interact together. I think there's an observation that I had that, you know, when you go to many conferences around the world, kind of in the space, it's all about what's the technology, where are we at, what are the new ideas, and so on, which is kind of, you know, the point of a conference.
Yes.
But when with the events that we have here, what's interesting is those are the conversations front and center, but the event is about the people.
100%.
It's about the experiences, it's about the networking, it's about the connections, it's about how do we take all these amazing ideas that were discussed and re-disseminate them back to different communities, which means that we've not just, you know, matured and grown as a community, but there's something there that's a bit different. That's something that there's value for other communities to learn from. And we've seen this already. We've got a number of people from further abroad than Africa that have been coming to the Indaba now for more than 1 year. And I feel like when someone comes here, they just get like bitten by this thing of like things could be different. And how can we work together to make this happen? So this has been very exciting to me to see how, you know, this maturation has led us to the point
Mhm.
where there can be more interesting bilateral discussions,
100%.
where it's not just about, you know, Africa receiving things, but producing new ideas, new, you know, vibes, cultures, these kinds of things. And I think like for the attendees at the Indaba, like this happens because of them. This happens because of the spirit they bring with them, and that's a spirit that, you know, is obviously not just created when they walk in the door here, but something that's special, something that they should be aware of, something they should be tapping into. And now's the time to be building these networks, right?
100%.
With people all over the world that care about the same things, that are
Yes.
able to contribute to the same
Yes.
conversations. And we
Yes.
need to be doing this more.
And those conversations, you know, it's always I always like looking at Indaba as a Europe's of Africa. Not I like looking, it is, because it's the largest, it's the biggest. When you look at, you know, you've been in the space, Prof, for a while now, you know, decades. And some of your students, you know, 10 years ago, they're working at big companies. They are representative in different structures, you know, within the AI, machine learning, and robotics space. Um, you know, being around for as long as you've been around, what are you happy about? What positive observations are you making that, you know what, it's starting to make sense? We're starting to really get value. We're starting to see the continent moving in this specific direction. Yes, not everything is fine, but one or two aspects, that's the results of what we did 10 years ago that we're able to enjoy now.
There's a lot to say about this. I'll ignore the bits of you calling me old. But, you know, one thing top of mind is I think there's about 16 of us that are here from my lab, either current or alumni.
Yes, sir.
And we had a dinner and it was amazing, you know, sitting there. Some of these people are now my colleagues. Some are all over the world.
100%.
Some we worked together many years ago. Some we've just started working together. And, you know, I was thinking about this and talking to some of my colleagues. And what's amazing is that, you know, look at, say, this group of people as just representative of the larger community. And, you know, first off is the kind of technical skills, which, you know, you kind of take for granted. This is what we expect everyone to have here.
Definitely.
And they've all got this in abundance, right? Like, that's not even the thing we need to talk about. I think that, like, that's just amazing. That's on a par with anywhere else. What really inspires me is that these are all people now that care. They all give back to the community. They contribute. Many have chosen not to go abroad. Like when they had the options to stay here and help build things.
Definitely.
Many that have gone abroad always looking for ways to connect back and how can they contribute in other ways. Many of my current students or past students been running workshops, doing absolutely amazing things, building other communities, and just particularly here, we've been um, like some of these students of mine have been
Yes.
running like the robotics
Hundred
workshops and
percent.
some of the neuro AI workshops, and
Hundred
these things have grown
percent.
from being tiny little sub communities
Yes.
to things that can proudly stand on their own now and can attract international speakers and have these like really rich discussions and talk about their own visions for the future. These were sub communities that we discussed in the early years of the Indaba, and like, we couldn't even imagine that these could exist. In fact, we
Definitely.
discussed, could we have a robotics session? No, it doesn't make sense. There's not enough people
There's not
around.
enough people.
And now there's so many people that are building their own agendas out of this and kind of collaborating, and the network's just growing wider. And this to me is truly inspiring because it's something that, just a few short years ago, I would never have guessed would have happened.
100%. 100%. Prof, the Indaba's quickly coming up its 10-year anniversary. When the Indaba hits 10, what are your expectations for the next 10 years? What are your expectations for its growth, for its sustainability? And if you could just reflect on um, where you would like to see it, in the far distant future when you're an old man, like, hey, that's what we started.
Yeah, I mean, what I think is interesting is because of the nature of it being very much a grassroots movement, it's kind of hard to predict how things go,
Yeah,
and it's
definitely.
very much got its own momentum. This is something I'm very proud of the way that almost the succession planning with
100%.
for the first few years it was just a handful of us that were running everything, and we always had those discussions of what happens if we're all sitting in a bus together and something happens, right? Does it
Yeah.
kill the community?
Oh,
But now that there's so many people involved, there's 70, 80 volunteers, there's
100%.
just everyone feels like they're giving back. And what this means is every year there's new energy, there's new
Yes.
ideas, and this
Yes.
is why it evolves the way it does.
Yes.
Now, this is amazing. We've got to think of ways of growing this in other directions. So I would like to see the Indaba keeping to grow. I'd like to
Okay.
see the Indaba X's growing as well.
Definitely.
Now these then become strong focus points for local communities and for the global community.
100%.
But I think there's a lot more that will happen and we should do. Ranging from, are there other levels of events between multiple countries? Can we do things that last for more than a single event? Can we find different ways of integrating different labs together, getting more mobility between groups in
Yes.
different parts of the continent,
Yes.
in different parts of the world,
Yes.
bringing more people here, getting more involved in joint projects? I think we built a very strong platform now. I would also like to see other networks popping up.
Okay.
That everything doesn't have to have an Indaba brand, but everything should be interwoven somehow. We should,
100%.
as long as there's all these communities share values, we can build together. And so I'd like to see this becoming, in that way, more and more decentralized, with more and more initiatives popping up and targeting different parts of this, whether it's
Yes.
about bringing people into the community, helping them mature once in the community, helping train or give exposure to people that are really on the periphery, or starting companies, or bringing in funding. Like, all of these things need to happen.
Yes, sir.
And now we've got, there's so many different sub networks. There's a big brand of the Indaba, and I think we've got a lot of leverage that we can start helping these other initiatives grow, stay linked, stay connected, promote like the strong branding, and really just bring in like orders of magnitude more Africans into the fold, and just like really accelerate what can happen here. Because I think this is like really a key vehicle that can bring about change in Africa in a positive way through the technology, but also through the people pushing the technology. And most importantly, through the fact that they're networked in a way that I've never seen Africans networked and on the same side in any other space before.
Prof, thank you so much for your vocal voice. Thank you so much for believing in Africa. Thank you so much for believing in young people. Thank you so much for always being a champion of Africa and believing that, we can really do it. I don't take that for granted. The community shouldn't take that for granted, because it's difficult to find people like that, and that are not only just saying it, but actually putting their money on it. And this Indaba, it's kind of like an emotional day because it's the closing day today. We're literally about to go to the closing ceremony. And I look at this and I look at the Indaba, and I mean, it's taken us to 3 countries on the African continent. That is crazy. I see brothers and sisters from all parts of the continent. I've never had a database of so many Africans on my phone in different regions on my phone, and they're all AI researchers and engineers, and
all
it's
awesome people.
phenomenal. I know awesome people. So kudos to you, and keep being that voice.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much, Prof.
Thanks so much.
Hey, big up.